All right. Hi, everyone. Today we're going to continue talking about designing solutions. Today we're really going to focus on sustainability. Maybe that's something you've heard of, maybe it's not. I will explain what sustainability is after the warm-up. So today's warm-up question is, when you hear the word sustainability or sustainable, what do you think that means? So please take your best guess. Please avoid using Google. Also, please answer the question before you go forward in this video. If you don't know, that's totally fine. Honestly, I didn't really know what sustainability meant until I got to college. So if you also don't know, totally fine. But give me your best guess. Yeah, just give me your best guess. Your best guess is totally fine. All right, so do that before you continue in this video. All right, so today's agenda, we just did the warm-up, and next we're going to introduce sustainability. Then we're going to evaluate the sustainability of the solutions that we looked at last class. So last class we talked about Holly's insect problem. Remember that farm was getting overrun with insects, and we came up with 4 different solutions to that problem. So we're going to look at those solutions again, but this time through the with the idea of sustainability in our minds. And then lastly, we'll do our exit slip. So the focus question for today is, what factors should be considered when evaluating solutions? So what things should we care more about when we're evaluating solutions, when we're thinking about what solutions are good for are good? And the learning target is, I can argue what factors should be considered when evaluating solutions. So the learning target is just, you can argue an answer for the focus question. All right, so sustainability, the focus of today's class. So when we consider solutions to environmental problems, it is important that a solution is sustainable. For a solution to be sustainable, it must meet the needs of the current community without making it impossible to meet the needs of future communities. So in deciding if a solution is sustainable, it is important to consider the environmental, economic, and social impacts on the community. A sustainable solution is one that addresses environmental, economic, and social needs. So sustainability, we can think of sustainability kind of as kind of like good. So if a solution is sustainable, that means it's good. And for a solution to be good, it must meet the needs of today. It must meet our needs today, while also meeting the needs of people in the future. Or making it so that people in the future can meet their needs. It's all about solving our problems today while also not creating new problems or not creating any problems for people in the future. So when we decide if a solution is sustainable, it's important to consider 3 things. We need to consider the environment, the economy, and society. A sustainable solution is always going to address all 3 of those things. For a solution to be totally sustainable, for a solution to be totally good, it needs to meet the needs of the environment, the economy, and society. So if we look here, if we look at this diagram, you see there are 3 circles. Environment, which is sort of this like yellowish green. The economy, which is this blue, and then social, which is this purple one. And you see that sustainability is the white in the center. So if a solution is only good for the environment, that's okay. That's okay. That's fine. But that's not a sustainable solution, because if something's only good for the environment, maybe it's ignoring the needs of the economy or of society. Similarly, if a solution is only good for the economy, then it's probably ignoring the needs of the environment and society. And that must mean maybe it's good for today, but maybe in the future, it's not going to be great. And so when we're thinking of solutions, we need to have sustainable solutions that are good for all three of these things, the environment, economy, and society. So we're mostly looking at solutions that we want to find right here in kind of this white spot in the middle. Those are things that are good for all three of these factors. So how might scientists determine if a solution is sustainable or good? So when scientists examine the sustainability of a solution, they look at many indicators. An indicator provides evidence for how well a system is working. So for example, one indicator of the economic health of a community may be the average income of the families living there. An indicator of environmental health of a community may be the biodiversity of its ecosystems. So indicators are just evidence that show that something is healthy or not healthy. So remember, when we talked about biodiversity, we said if an ecosystem is biodiverse, that means it has lots and lots of species, different species. And if an ecosystem has lots of different species, then it's very healthy. If something happens to one of those species, well, that's bad, but the rest of the ecosystem will survive. So biodiversity is an indicator of an ecosystem's health. It shows how healthy an ecosystem is. Similarly, if we want to talk about like the local economy, an indicator of the local economy's health would be the average income of the families living there. So on average, how much money do the people in that area make? If it's very high, then we know that that local economy is very healthy. If the average income is kind of low, if people don't make a lot of money, then we know actually that economy is probably not very healthy. So there are lots of indicators we can look at when we're thinking about sustainability or when we're thinking about the environment, economy, or society. So this is a chart that is already on Google Classroom. I'll show you where it is in a minute. But on this chart, there are lots of different sustainability indicators. So there are three areas of sustainability: environment, economy, and society. Within each sustainability area, there are 4, 5, or 6 different indicators. So right now, I'm going to walk you through just a few of the indicators. I'm not going to go through all of them because you can read it. But for example, for the environment, an indicator of the environment might be like, or an indicator of environmental health could be like number of species, so how many species are living there, or like amount of water pollution. So if an ecosystem has lots of water pollution, then it's probably not very healthy. So those are 2 examples of environmental indicators. Some economic indicators could be like number of homes. So if an area has lots of homes and it's building new homes, then that means that people have enough money to own their own home. They don't have to rent anymore. So usually that means the local economy is pretty healthy. Another example could be number of new businesses. So if a local economy has lots of new businesses, then that means it's probably healthy because people have enough money to start new businesses, and there's demand for new businesses. People need new businesses. And then some social indicators could be like crime rate. So if there's a lot of crime in an area, if it's really unsafe, then that probably means that local society or like a bigger society is not very healthy. Or we could say number of homeless people. So if there are a lot of people that have nowhere to live, then that means something is broken in the local society. It's not working. It's not healthy because it's not taking care of everyone. So those are some different social indicators that we can think about. So when we determine if an environmental solution is sustainable, we need to think about environmental, economic, and social indicators. These will help us determine if our solution is going to be good. All right, so to help you think a little bit more about indicators, In class, I asked this question: what indicators might help determine whether the school soccer team was good or healthy? So what indicators could we look for to see if if Olmsted North soccer team was good? What evidence would tell us that the team was good? Some people said, oh, like the number of goals that the team scores every game, or like how many games they've won, how many championships they've won, how healthy the players are. So if players have a lot of injuries, the team's probably not going to be very good. Like how often they practice. If they practice once a day, they're probably going to be pretty good, or much better than if they only practice once a week. And so all of those things would be indicators that the school soccer team is pretty good. So cool. So now that we understand what indicators are, or know about indicators, let's actually look at the sustainability of a proposed solution. So last class we talked about Holly's family's farm, which was being overrun by insects. And we looked at 4 different solutions. Those solutions were one was chemical control, so that was using insecticides, so chemicals to kill the insects on the crops. The second one was relocate the farm, so move the farm somewhere else. The third one was biological control, so that means bring predators to the farm to eat all the insects. And the last one was physical removal. So that was just burning the farm down and restarting. So in class, we decided to look at chemical control. So that's that we're going to look at the sustainability of using pesticides or insecticides, so chemicals that kill insects. All right, so we have this worksheet called Lesson 20 Worksheet, Evaluating the Sustainability of a Solution. There are 5 questions that we're going to answer, and we're going to answer these questions about the chemical control, about using pesticides on the fields, on the crops. So I just did this with the class that I just had. So I just blacked out my answers. I'm going to unhighlight them as we go. So number 1, and before we begin, I'm using chemical control as my focus for this worksheet. You can choose a different solution, a different one of those 4 solutions that I just talked about as the focus for your worksheet if you want. But you're also welcome to just use what I have here. That's totally fine because we did this in class. So number 1 says, what is the problem we are trying to solve? No matter what solution you choose, the problem we're trying to solve is we are trying to solve Holly's family's farm's insect problem. So it's overrun with insects. We need to fix that. For my worksheet, what is the proposed solution? The proposed solution is putting insecticides on the crops in order to kill the beetles. Number 3, what indicators could be used to monitor or evaluate the proposed solution? So this just means, how will we know if our solution is keeping the environment, the economy, and society healthy and safe? So we are going to choose some different indicators we can look at to determine how these things are being affected. So the indicators are on Google Classroom in the post called, so under Lesson 20, Evaluating the Sustainability of a Solution, there is a post, or there's a Google document called Sustainability Indicators. If you open that, you'll see the chart that I looked at earlier. So you can use this chart to choose what indicators you're going to look at for your solution to determine if your solution is sustainable. So again, I did this in class just now, so I'm just going to unhighlight my answers. For environmental, the first one was we should look at the number of insects killed. So if there were a lot of insects killed, then we know that the pesticide is working. But if the insects are not beetles, if the insects, if we kill insects that aren't the problem, then that becomes a problem. So we're only trying to kill the beetles. If other insects die, that's bad for the environment. The next one is population of the beetle's prey. So maybe the beetles that we're trying to kill, they eat other insects or they eat the crops. So if we look at if the beetle's prey goes up, then we know the beetle problem is being taken care of. Another one is health of small animals. So insecticides are poisonous for people and for animals. So if we're using too many pesticides, the health of small animals is going to go down. So maybe like pets or like mice that live in the field, they could get sick and die. And the last thing is water pollution. So remember, anything we put on a field could become runoff when it rains. So fertilizer, if we put fertilizer in a field, that's going to become runoff when it rains. Same with pesticides or insecticides. Those chemicals are going to run off into the river. So if we notice we start having a lot of water pollution, then maybe our pesticides or insecticides are hurting the environment. Right, for economic, we have number of crops eaten. Actually, we should say this, number of crops that survive. So for farmers, crops are money. So if you have a lot of crops survive, that means you get a lot of money. So that would be good. That would show us that the economy is doing well, that we're helping the economy. Second one is number of farms that are still open. So if farms don't use pesticides, or if the pesticides don't work, farmers might have to just relocate their farms, move somewhere else. So if the farms are still open, then we know that people are staying because their farms are recovering. And lastly is farm profit. So, how much money are we making? All three of those things would prove that we're helping the economy. And then social. So for social, one thing could be health of humans. So is our health being affected? If our health is being affected, then pesticides probably aren't great. The second one is growth of population. So again, just like this one, if people's farms are being destroyed, they'll have to move. So if the population is going down, then we know that the pesticides aren't really working and that this isn't sustainable. And lastly, crime rate. If farmers' farms die, then maybe they'll need to steal from other farmers or something like that. So crime rate is something that we could look at to determine how pesticides might be affecting society. All right. Number 4 says explain whether the proposed solution is sustainable from an environmental perspective, an economic perspective, and a social perspective. So, is our proposed solution using chemicals good if we just think about, let's say, the environment? So if we're only considering the environment, actually using pesticides is not great because even though the pesticides, the insecticides are going to help crops, they pollute the environment and accidentally kill lots of organisms. That's not sustainable. That's not good. So one student in class said, like pesticides are like 50-50 good. That's true, because they do help crops. But for something to be sustainable, it really has to be mostly very good. So 50-50 is not mostly very good. 50-50 is 50-50. So if it's 50-50, then it's probably not sustainable. It has too many disadvantages. B is an economic perspective. Just thinking about the economy, pesticides are actually really great because they increase the number of crops that a farmer can sell. So for the economy, pesticides are really good. And then a social perspective. This one, my last class disagreed about whether pesticides are sustainable from a social perspective. So on the one hand, using pesticides increases the amount of food, and it protects people's jobs. So that's good for society. But on the other hand, it hurts humans' health. I think that human health is extremely important. And so in my head, if we're negatively affecting people's health, then we are not being sustainable. But other people are going to think differently. Other people will think, well, actually, it's most important to protect jobs, or to like grow food and have food. And so here, this one, you can write yes or no. It's up to you. Both are okay, as long as you explain why you're saying yes. All right, and then number 5 says, what actions could be taken to improve the effectiveness of the proposed solution? Actually, we didn't do this in class, so you don't have to do it. This one is, yeah, you don't have to do number 5. That's your reward for watching this video. All right, don't do number 5, it's fine. All right, and then the last thing we have to do after this, so make sure you submit this, and then you're gonna do the exit slip. So the exit slip is on Google Classroom. There are 2 files under the exit slip. First is lesson 20 exit slip. Second is lesson 20 exit slip audio. So I'm not going to read you the exit slip right now. If you want to listen if you want me to read you the exit slip, listen to the audio. But for the lesson 20 exit slip, what you're going to do, you're going to read a scenario and answer the questions on page 2. So here's the scenario. This is the background information. Right underneath that, there are 2 solutions that this town is considering. You're going to read both. Then you're going to decide which of these solutions is more sustainable. So there are 6 questions for you to answer, and they're all going to help you think about which solution is more sustainable. So number 4 says, which proposal do you think is more sustainable? I want to note, neither solution is totally sustainable. Okay, so both solutions have problems. They both have disadvantages. It's for you to choose what one you think. It's for you to choose which one you think is better. Neither one is perfect, but you have to choose one, and you kind of have to explain why. For number 5, you're going to say, why did you choose your answer for question 4? So you're going to explain what factor or factors you think are most important to consider. So for example, are the environmental, economic, or social factors most important for the scenario? Why? And then number 6 says, in this scenario, which factor do you think is least important to consider? Why? All right, so that's the exit slip. If you have any questions about the exit slip, leave a comment on Google Classroom. I will be happy to help you. But yeah, otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in class next time. See ya.